Hey guys, Zangetsu 134 here, bringing you another My Hero Academia review with this time My Hero Academia Season 3, Episode 3. In this episode, we finally see the beginnings of their training, as the others train to extend and strengthen the power of their quirks. We also get hints that a powerful enemy is appearing, as finally the League of Villains Vanguard Task Force is going to make their move. Meanwhile, Midoriya tries to bond with Mandalay's little cousin Kota in the hopes that he can help him learn to overcome his hatred of heroes and villains. So yeah, this episode, for the most part, is pretty much just straight out of the manga. Whatever little changes there are, it's mainly there to just enhance what was already there. For one, we get to see like an extended view of, I think, everyone's quirk training regimen. Before, we actually didn't see all of their, well, at least of Class 1A. We don't see Class 1B's full training regimen. I think we only see a couple of them doing things. But we do see everyone's, if I remember correctly, I don't think we actually see Jiro's or Mina's in the manga. I mostly remember seeing just a few of them, like, completely. And more or less, they just have the narrator, or rather, Present Mike's voice doing the full rundown of what everyone's doing. For instance, Bakugo is putting his hands in boiling water in the hopes to enlarge in his sweat glands in order for him to produce more nitroglycerin sweat, and thereby enhancing the blast strength of his explosions. Midoriya is constantly training and tearing up the muscles in his body in order for them to strengthen, so that he can more appropriately handle the effects of All for One, or One for All. I do that a lot. I mix them up so badly. One for All. And for the most part, it's just seeing the ridiculously intense training that they're going through in order for that to make them stronger, due to the fact that villain attacks are on the rise. The other part is mostly them doing basic camp stuff, like making their own food, and eventually doing like a camp game where they do the test of courage. That eventually gets stopped by the League of Villains Vanguard Task Force. For me, I like the training stuff, although I admit I think it's ridiculously harsh, even if they are trying to make them much stronger, much faster. Especially those who are in the boot camp cram school that the ones that fail their tests are in. The fact that they get up at like 7 a.m. and then are taught until 2 a.m., which... Well, I admit I get that Aizawa's trying to cram school them. At the same time, it's really ridiculous that, like, he's letting them only maybe have, like, at most, like, 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I don't even think the military does that in boot camp. But then again, I've never been through boot camp in military, so feel free to correct me in the comments. I still think it's a little bit ridiculous, especially because they're 14 and high schoolers. And I know that they're trained to be powerful heroes, but at the same time, there's only so much a body can take before the training is more or less torture. But otherwise, it's mostly after that just focused around Midoriya and his want to help Kota be a better person. His parents were the superhero team Fire Hose. They were killed by a villain, who we'll find out later. We'll find out who the villain is later. And we also get a few hints to Kota's quirk. After he makes Midoriya leave and Kota basically, mopes. We see a rock at his hiding spot that he goes to, his secret hideout as he calls it. And we see like rocks that have been clearly corroded by water, especially because they appear to be wet. Which we won't really see until actually, maybe this episode or the next. However they want to play out the villain attack. And we also get to see, for the most part, a few of the main members of the Vanguard Task Force. We see Dabi and Toga. We see the lizard guy whose name I don't remember. The lizard guy who wears a stain mask. And yeah, it's a stain mask. They bring it up later, but he's more or less someone who believes in Stain's ideals, hence why he joins these villains to bring down Hero Society. We see the weird dude who carries like a big staff. We see, I think his name's Moonfish. The dude who's dressed in bondage. And he looks about as what I thought he was going to look. And for the most part, it's very much just, them setting up the next part of the arc. In this case, the Vanguard Task Force's attack on the training camp during the Test of Courage. They actually also, I think, they point out a little bit better here than in the manga that it took them. It's about their time in the camp so far has been about 3 days of the allotted week that they had. Although I almost wonder if this camp was actually going to turn into like being like the whole of their summer vacation. Which would kind of suck a little bit because Japan only gets 1 month of summer vacation compared to like America's 3 months. And in fact, I think most other countries do that as well. It's only a month. But I do feel bad because like that seems a little unfair that these kids aren't allowed to have any sort of fun. Thinking that's mostly me being a 28-year-old. But yeah, for the most part, it's very swift. It's mostly just that stuff. Introducing the other two members of the Wild Wild Pussycats, the green-haired girl and the big dude. They don't really get a lot. They're mostly there for to just be introduced. We still know more about Mandalay and Pixie Bob than we do about them. At least in this current part of the manga. Like I said, I've only read up to where the manga is currently with the season. At least to my knowledge with the season. And so yeah, it was interesting to just see all of the characters like using their quirks, training with them. I like the stuff with Kota and Midoriya, but my only complaint is the stuff with Kota and Midoriya is very short, and is only like a handful of chapters where we see them really interact, and we don't get to see it a lot. Especially because from what I know, the Wow Wow Pussycats and Kota are really only a part of this arc, and only really the beginning of it. It plays a little bit more towards the very end of the arc, Kota at least. But the Wild Wild Pussycats, we really don't see much of. After these first couple episodes of this season, because the bulk of the season is much more dedicated to another and more towards the villains and the eventual confrontation that will happen at the end of it. And while I don't mind Kota, I will admit he's kind of like annoying to the point of it makes me not really care what happens to him. I mean, I don't like obviously because at the end of this episode, like clearly Kota is all by himself during a villain attack, and only I think Midoriya knows where he is. So Midoriya is the only one that can rescue him. And while that is an interesting thing and a fun thing for the arc, it still means that Midoriya, it's mostly that Kota is just there to give Midoriya a reason to battle. And I will admit that's my only real complaint with this part of the arc, is that Kota is basically just a plot point. Like I don't mind him, and I like him as, and I like him as he's a I guess just a lesson for Midoriya to learn that like not everyone will like heroes. And that, for all the good this society has created, there's just as much bad. And, some people are hurt because of that and cannot truly accept this heroism for what it is. But at the same time, it's frustrating just because of the fact that he's so... I don't know if obnoxious is the word, but he's so complaining, and the fact that he's like a little kid makes it really frustrating because he just doesn't want to listen at all to anybody. And I will admit, I do like the fact that Midoriya has to learn the harsh truth that All Might can't always fix everything. He wanted All Might to come to the camp so that he could talk to Kota and maybe convince him to see the good in the Hero Society. But the problem is, All Might doesn't know like what goes on with everything. He's just, if All Might went to talk to him, it would just be another hero trying to praise this kid's folks for sacrificing themselves, and he should be proud of that. And Kota isn't. Only someone doing some sort of heroic action to for Kota, or show Kota what it means to be a hero, is the only true way that Kota can overcome his hatred, is to see what truly means to be a hero, not people constantly telling him that his parents were one, even though he sees them dying and leaving him behind to not be heroic. But it is frustrating just because he's so obnoxious to the point, like, he doesn't, like, he hates them and he doesn't want to talk to these kids, and it causes more problems than good. Also, especially in my opinion, the fact that him punching Midoriya in the balls really should have gotten him a lot more trouble than it did, but to be fair, when bad things happen to Midoriya, a lot of times this manga decides that it's okay that it happens to him. Well, there's this really funny gag with Midoriya where the fact that because the 5 members of Class 1A have been sent to boot camp, Midoriya is the only one that doesn't get to have a partner during the trial of courage, which is kind of a shame, but at the same time, I don't really mind because it gives Midoriya an excuse to just bail and go rescue Kota. And we also get to see a little bit more Class 1B in this. Mostly the Class 1B rep who the one with the big hands. I forget her name. She and Momo had an internship with each other last season, and we got to see her be a little bit clever and rescuing everyone. Or at least her friends during the beginning of the attack when I can't think of his name. When the dude in the German World War I gas mask lets off his cork, which is this poison that he emits through the air, she recognizes it right away and protects her one friend by making her hand big and covering her in it in a way that, like, the gas, she can't breathe the gas in. I think her ability is she can burrow or something. They're also with the kid with the weird mouth that can apparently melt stuff or soften it. But otherwise, we mostly just see a couple of moments during the attack, mainly of Dobby starting a forest fire and the gas being released, and the attack that knocks Pixie Bob out of the fight, that leaves her with a concussion. But otherwise, that's pretty much it of the episode. It's very much just more build-up. In the first, that was my really only complaint with this season, is that the camp stuff is really just build up and build up and build up until we get to what is more or less the beginning of the attack. And while that's perfectly fine, it's great for little character moments. It does mean that, like, the first couple episodes of this season, especially one of the which being a completely anime-only filler, really makes you be like, oh, come on, just get to the good stuff. And to be fair, I've always felt My Hero Academia is a slow burn a little bit in ways. In my opinion, I think it doesn't really start ratcheting up to being, like, amazing until really the end of season 1, when we get to the fight with All Might against Nomu. In my opinion, that's where the show really began. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's good. Like, you clearly, like, get, like, all this really great character stuff, and Midoriya definitely makes it good, but, like, it really doesn't... sorry. It really doesn't escalate up to being, like, the amazing show that it is until more or less right now. And I and more or less that a lot of that comes from the fact that, like, Stain makes this show, changes this show for, changes how this show is viewed. But yeah, I know a lot of people will probably be a little frustrated at that it stops just when the action's getting good. But don't worry, guys. Next episode will definitely be a lot more action packed. But like I said, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to do the attack, because the attack is multiple things happening at once. I assume that they're going to have Midoriya's main stuff being like the main like line, and we'll see like the B plots intermixed, because I can't imagine that they would let his whole segment just be like straight up on its own. Either that, I mean, granted it might, but I don't know. Especially, but then again, like there's also other parts that are going to happen as the art. Maybe for the most part they will have his segments first, then we'll see like the rest of the attack. But I'm not entirely sure how that's going to play out. But anyway, guys, I think that's enough rambling for this episode. I think it was really good. If you've read the manga, you know what's coming. If not, it's definitely fun to at least get these little character bits. But otherwise, guys, that's all I gotta say. So, I'm gonna try and get to the Kamen Rider episode as quickly as I can. Not entirely sure how that will play out, but I will give it my best shot. It really just depends on when I can find a place that has the whole thing subbed. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it. I'm Zangetsu 134, signing off.